I'm Costa from Gardening Australia. I'm just enjoying a cuppa, kind of by myself, but not anymore. I'm with all of you. And I want to basically run through a few things that you can start to apply to your day-to-day now that you've got time in lockdown. I'm not suggesting that you need to go out there and start it big time overnight, but the biggest thing you can do is start by separating your food scraps. Now that could be as simple as, of course, getting, this is a purpose-made kitchen scrap organics bin, right? Of course, you can get one of those, but at the moment, maybe you can't because you don't have access to your local council. So I've got an idea. One sec. Well, that's perfect. You can actually keep that on your kitchen bench. It's got a lid, so it means that you won't have those little pesky vinegar flies flying around on top of the food scraps that are in there. And then you carry this downstairs to your bucket. Tip number 2, collecting calcium. Now that you've started to separate your food waste, here's the opportunity. Eggshells. They are calcium just waiting to be put back out there into your garden. So what I suggest you can do is when you use your eggs, simply put them under the tap, put your thumb in there, wipe out the little bit of egg white that's in there, make it clean, and then sit them up on the windowsill. In the process, you'll become an environmental educator because all your friends are going to come in and say, "What are those eggshells doing there?" And you'll say, "Since you asked, allow me to explain." And you're going to say to them, "I'm actually becoming a calcium resource recovery agent," which is really cool. And it's so simple. Whether you live on your own, whether you're in a share house, whether you're a teenager, a millennial, whether you're a grandpa, a grandma, or somewhere in between, you can do this, and particularly with the kids. Separate the eggshells, and then, I have these 2 containers, and as it fills up, I just get the other one and crush it down on top. And if I want, once they're both full, I actually put all the shells through a blender and turn it into this beautiful fine calcium. And then I can put it on the garden. So if we're going to grow food, we want to start and build the soil. And the best way to build the soil is back up the valley in the kitchen where we have these beautiful, rich materials that we can start to put into the soil. So calcium, really easy to recover and get it back out there into the garden. Tip number 3, windowsill gardening. Have you thought of regrowing your veggies? It's really quite simple, and there's lots of different ones that you can do it with. I've got 2 here to illustrate the point. This was a bunch of celery. That was how it was cut off when it was bought at the market. All I've done is put it in this saucer, and that is within 2 days. The celery starts to regrow. I reckon if you leave it in here for about a week, it'll get up to about this high. Week to 10 days, not even, a week is fine. Then you can take it, put it in a pot and start to grow celery out of what would have gone for some into the bin and for others into the compost. So let's slow the chain. Let's slow the return back to the soil a little by getting another crop out of it. And the other one that I've got here is a leek. If you cut it off, I could have been a little more generous and cut that a bit higher, like, about say 20 centimetres, 20 to 25 millimetres, so much. If you cut that much off, and look, the leek is already regrowing again, day 2. Really simple, but you can turn your windowsill, particularly if you're living in an apartment and you don't have a backyard, you don't have a balcony, you don't have a rooftop, you can do little growing exercises like this, pot them up in a place. It could be the common ground in the block of apartments, or you could grow them up and give them to a friend. But either way, we can regrow food without actually having any seeds or any seedlings to start with. Tip number 4, cuttings. They're just the equivalent of free plants, because all you need is a pair of secateurs, a little bit of knowledge, and you can turn one plant into many, particularly with things like succulents. Because these, all you need to do is cut them, put them into the soil, and they'll strike. Particularly something like this sedum. You can see where it was touching the soil, it's already thrown some roots, so all I need to do is literally cut it off there and place that in a pot, and I've got another one. Or here, I just cut that off and I've got another one. This, I took a cutting that a friend gave me from their garden a couple of weeks ago, and this is growing gangbusters. But one of my favourites is bush basil. Because all you need to do is take a little bit of a cutting with the woody part, like the second year growth, where it's gone a little bit firmer, it isn't just this soft part. What I can do is take the top out there, and then all you need to do is put that in water like that, and within a couple of days you'll see these beautiful little roots coming off it. Leave it for about a week, and then you can place that in some nice potting mix, and away you go. You've got a bush basil plant. These were bits that were broken off. I can trim them a little, put them in, and I'm going to get lots of little basil plants that I can grow for myself. Most importantly, a bush basil like this has lots of flowers, and as we head into winter, the flowers are really beneficial for all of our insects and pollinators. So think about ways that you can get into growing through cuttings. They're awesome and they're free. And tip number 5. The seeds have gone everywhere. Now, speaking of seeds, there's been a big rush on seeds because people couldn't get seedlings. So when the seedlings ran out, they wanted to go for seeds. But like anything, we need to take steps towards growing and understanding. So if you haven't grown seeds before, there's a simple way to start. And that way could be just reinterpreting something like an egg carton, rather than being something that goes into the recycle, which would be a good thing. I'd actually say, yes, that's great. But I would take it one step back and actually put it in the compost first. But then I'd take an egg carton another step back and say, I can actually use it to grow my seedlings in. It's something that I can put the lid over when it's a little bit cool and keep them a bit warmer at night, then lift it up during the day and the little seedlings can grow. So all you need to do is get some potting, some seed raising mix, or if you've got some nice garden soil that isn't heavy clay, you can put it through a bit of a sieve to get some of the chunks out, or some potting mix and put that through a sieve and get the chunks out of it. Fill this almost, fill that 3/4 full, like that. And then all you need to do is pick the seeds you're after. In this case, these are little cucumber melons, little mouse melons. They're beautiful. They grow sort of, trying to think of a date, that kind of shape. But they, like cucumbers and lettuce even, have these really small seeds. Of course, things like corn and beans, you could grow in here, like they're a bigger seed. But in this sort of a case, I think you can grow your smaller seeds, even your Asian greens and things. So you get some of your seeds and you just sprinkle them on the top, a little bit of soil over the top of that, and you know, you can even write here what it was. So that's cucumber melon, this was bok choy, this was Lebanese cucumber, this was something else. And that way you can grow them on in this little container, and then when they're up and growing, you can then separate them, put them in a smaller container, grow them out a bit more, and then put them in the garden, particularly on the edge of season. So that's a really, really easy way to turn something that would otherwise have gone to recycling into a useful food growing tool. Think about perennial plants, those things that nature keeps going every year. And there's lots of them out there that we might call weeds, but they're actually edible. Things like fat hen, things like milk thistle, things like amaranth in particular. It just volunteers again each year. I get it in my garden, and it's a perfect leaf that you can use in replacement for something like spinach, and put it in spinach pies or spinach and cheese triangles, whatever you want. You can have it as a side dish with olive oil and vinegar and a bit of salt and pepper. Wonderful, nutritious, and it just keeps growing. The key with those is you want to eat the younger leaves. As they get older, they start to get thicker and a little bit more woody, and they get a bit chewy. But think about those differences between annual vegetables, perennial vegetables, and how you can start to get some perennial vegetables growing at your place. And finally, you can look at our wonderful native edibles. There's so many. I won't go into it now because that would be 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, right through to 150. But I'll just give you one because I'm unauthorised at this stage to give you any more, but I'll just sneak this one in. Tetragonia tetragonoides. See if you can say that. That's Warrigal greens. It's botany-based spinach or New Zealand spinach. It's a native ground cover that once you've got it, you will have a spinach leaf green that you can use in your cooking all the time. You do have to blanch it before you eat it. It's not good to eat it raw, but once you've got that in your garden, it reseeds and will just keep coming every year, and you've always got a meal. You can make spinach rice, you could cross over, you could make spinach pies. I know that's Greek, but hey, let's just use the ingredients that will grow here. And the good thing about the Warrigal greens is nothing really attacks it. There's so many ways we can all get connected with growing our own food, and this lockdown is a crazy chance to do a little bit of homework and start to connect yourself with that place out there and get growing a local food system.